Aloha everybody, this is Cynthia White coming to you live from Kids Hurt 2 Hawaii. This program is called Inside Times. We call it Inside Times because these are times that we are all inside. And because we're inside, things have changed. The time we spend together has changed, our needs have changed, our fears have changed. So many things have changed. I mean, I could spend the entire program talking about the number of changes that we are all going through. So in this episode of Inside Times, we've covered a lot of ground. It's an educational program to help you understand more about the needs of grieving and traumatized children. So today's program is about communicating with children, and especially on the topics of grief, trauma, and COVID-19. So I'll try to be brief. I'm needed as well to do another program later, so I'm going to try to get through this. It's a lot. It's not enough information for you, really. I think your questions would be way more important if you were able to take time to answer those questions. So if you have any questions when you join our program, please, I will try my best to see any questions that come up. In the meantime, let's get into it. So we're going to start by looking at a PowerPoint that I prepared for you. So it helps me to focus on the information and not get off on tangents if I do a PowerPoint, and hopefully it might be useful for you as well going forward. So let's get to it. So first of all, Kids Hurt 2 Hawaii, is a support program for grieving and traumatized children. We work with them usually in doing in-person groups, but in these times in these inside times, we've had to do online groups, individual phone contacts. We just started back with in-person groups, but we're being very careful. What we're doing is just meeting with one or two families at a time and holding small groups numerous times a day and taking all the precautions. Everybody wears a mask, staff wears a face shield because they have the highest exposure, disinfecting everything, checking temperatures, doing the questionnaires before they come into the building, and just, all that we can do to provide that needed safety. There we go. So today's topic is communicating with children. That's what we do, and that's something we do very well in our programs, is communicate with children. Why do we do that well? Because we have training and we are teaching our volunteer facilitators how to communicate with children. And we understand children. I've been doing this work for 37 years. Hiro, who's at the office today and not able to join me, he's been doing it for 24 years, maybe 25, I think, at this point. So we've been doing this for a long time, and everything I've learned about communicating with children has primarily come from children. But I will give you some pointers, things not to do, things to do, and then we'll specifically focus on how to talk with children about COVID-19. So today I want to just remind you, in a previous episode, I think number 4, 5, and 6, or perhaps 4 and 5, anyway, those programs focused on joining, which is a skill for interactive participation, because when you communicate with children, you need to understand that your facial expression, your body posture, your tone, all of those things are impacting the child, probably more, but certainly as much as your words. And so it's important to remember that skill. If you forgot, go back, review it. It's just a major, I found a major healing skill for communicating and interacting with children. And it's a formula for creating consciousness. Right now, consciousness is something we all need to be creating, because it's very easy to to go unconscious and not be thinking about the impact of what you're doing and how it could affect other people, especially when it's an invisible threat like this virus. So please think about your own consciousness, and you need this as much as children need it. I mean, honestly, it works for adults as well. So it's something that you might want to practice or help others learn so that you can get that same kind of attention. Just overview with joining. Well, no, I'm sorry, I should have taken that out. This is not an overview of joining. This is the same PowerPoint except different information. But what I do want to say is this is what not to do when you are joining. Okay, this is what not to do when you are joining. Avoid saying you know how they feel. This is not a good thing to say to anybody unless they've been through the exact same thing. But yes, you may be the parent and your husband has died and your child's father has died, and you think, well, we've been through the same thing. No, it's very different. It's very different to have to lose a spouse than it is to lose a parent. Those are different relationships. So it's important to understand that you probably don't understand. Nobody likes having somebody tell you how they feel or tell you that they know how you feel when they haven't been through something very similar. Widows do better when they talk with other widows. Widowers do better when they talk to other widowers. Divorcees do better when they talk to other divorcees. People who've had homicides or suicides do better when they talk together, versus being with and hearing from other people who have not been through what you have been. That's more challenging to handle. Don't tell children how they feel or what they should do about their feelings. The difficult part about having children talk to us about their sadness, their pain, their suffering, is that we want to make it better. We want them to feel better. And so it's very easy to do things or say things that you think will make them feel better. But what you actually do is you communicate to them, I don't want to hear this, it's too upsetting for me. And that's something I'm sure you don't want to do. You also don't want to communicate to them what you're feeling isn't important. This is what I think you should be feeling. So please avoid at all times telling other people how they feel or what they should do about those feelings. That's something we all have to work out on our own. Don't try to make them feel better. That's probably one of the hardest things a parent can do, is not try to make their child feel better. You want to comfort them, you want them to feel better, but sometimes we just have to go through our feelings. And I found that over the years that parents often worry that when their children express sad feelings or pain in some way because of what's happened to them, that the parent has a tendency to think, oh my gosh, they've been thinking about this over and over and dwelling on it, and they're just now talking about it. That's not usually the case with children, maybe with teens, but not so much with young children. Usually it's just come up in the moment. And if you remember the previous episodes on trauma and grief, I talked about the fact that you can actually only grieve in the moment. Trauma is in the moment. It's in your body. Grief is in your body. And so what you're experiencing in the moment is what's important. And it's okay if you don't feel good. These things are hard. Death, trauma, COVID-19, these are hard experiences. So it's okay to not feel better. And then sometimes we just need to know that it's okay to not feel good. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to have any feeling you're having. You have a right to those feelings. Don't give children adult roles. Don't tell children that, oh, now that their father's gone, they're going to have to be the man of the house. That is not helpful. It's okay to give them some responsibilities like chores and things like that, but don't give them adult roles. It's not their job to take care of what the father took care of. It's not their job to be your companion or your substitute spouse. So help them keep their childhoods by reminding them that they are a child and that you're going to continue to treat them as a child because it's okay to be a child. This is their time. This is their time of being children. So help them to keep their childhood because trauma and grief will take it away really fast. They'll grow up too fast. And so you really have to work at helping them to not become little adults. And most of all, don't avoid the subject by changing the topic, for example. There are lots of different ways that people avoid the subject, but people avoid the subject. Changing the topic is one of the most common. You avoid the subject by discounting their feelings, as we already talked about, by trying to make them feel better. That's really a way of you feeling better, because if they feel better, then you're going to feel better. So please, please help them talk about it by being open to the subject. Sometimes we have to express that we are open just by bringing up the subject. Reminding them, oh, this was a place, we went together when your mom was here, or this is something we used to do together when we were a whole family and the divorce hadn't happened. It's okay to remind them about the past and the things that they enjoyed about the past. It might make them sad in that moment, but remember, it's okay to have the feelings that you have. And it's better to have those feelings with somebody you love and trust than to have them alone in the dark in your room and feel you can't tell anybody because it'll upset that parent. And children have a tendency to protect their parents and to try to keep their parents from being upset. And parents have a tendency to protect their children, try to keep their children from being upset. So as you can see, this doesn't leave a whole lot of room for supporting each other. And supporting each other is exactly what needs to happen, especially at this time. So what you can say is be honest. Children can handle the truth. I've had over the years hundreds of parents ask me, can I tell my children this? Can I tell my children that? And they don't want to tell them. It's hard to tell a child that a parent has suicided. It's hard to tell a child that somebody has been killed. It's hard to tell a child that somebody has died that they care about. These are difficult truths, but they are the truth. And the truth is key to your relationship, okay? Because your relationship is based on mutual trust. And it's important for children that they have somebody that they can trust. So if you're honest, if you tell the truth, that will keep that trusting relationship intact. If you try to protect them by hiding the truth, then you risk that important piece of your relationship with your child, trust. And once that trust is broken, it's really hard to get it back. Children are very resistant to regaining trust once it has been broken. So please be honest with your children. And when you are honest, give them information at the child's developmental level. So, you don't give a 3-year-old the gory details of a death. You don't tell your young children about, your problems in your relationship that led to a divorce. No, you want to give them information at their developmental level. So how you talk with them will change over time. And here's an interesting, albeit difficult fact, is that children will change over time too. And so as they grow and develop, how you explain to them what happened or how you talk with them about the truth, the facts of what happened, will also change along with their development. So help them remember. So this is an important key, bringing up things that you don't want them to forget, that they don't want to forget, encouraging them to talk about their memories, encouraging other people to talk about their memories around the child. So help them remember. Memories are like muscles. If you don't use them, you lose them. So get those pictures out, talk about the person who's missing. Even if you're angry or hated the person or you had some kind of conflict with the other person, maybe the child didn't. Maybe they had good memories. And so you have to put aside your own issues and allow the child the opportunity to be honored in their memories and their love for that person. Give them choices. We don't have a lot of choices right now with this pandemic. So, but give them choices as much as you can. Sometimes simple things like, do you want peas or carrots? You know, both. I mean, sometimes, what do you want for dinner? You know, simple things. You want to play this game or you want to play that game? You want to watch this show or you want to watch that show? There are a lot of different ways that you can give children choices. Choices are empowering, and I think we all know that death, that grief, divorce, trauma, all of those are, in this COVID pandemic, all of those are disempowering. So we need choices to help us feel empowered. Common struggles that children who've lost somebody through death or divorce, or who have been traumatized, or even now who are going through this terrible pandemic with us, with you, are fears. They're afraid somebody else will die. They're afraid somebody will get sick. And you're probably having those same fears. They're afraid that you know, if they get close to anybody, then they're going to get hurt again. They're afraid. I mean, the fears are just so much that, I mean, it's affecting my health. I don't know how you're handling it, but the fears and the worry that's happening in this pandemic is affecting my health. I'm not doing well physically, but you know what? I'm getting help. I'm going in for therapy. Well, actually, it'll be online therapy, and I have a very supportive family, so I utilize that support. But children, they only have you, and you are having fears as well. So you all need to talk openly about those fears. Trust. Children aren't sure often who they can trust. If somebody new comes into the life, can they trust that person won't die? Can they trust that person won't go away? If the parent was widowed or single and now dating somebody, their trust issues come up. Loyalty may affect, I have that at the bottom, but it goes with trust. I probably should have put them together. Those are things that children struggle with because new person in their life, what does that mean to the person who's gone? Are they going to feel that I'm in some way disrespecting them or not loving them as much? Or, you got to help children understand that love is forever. You can't take love away once you give it. They get to keep it. It's forever. And the love that they have for the person who's missing, you may not have that same love. If it's a divorce or something, but they will love that person, and their love for whoever is missing for whatever reason needs to be honored, even if the person was abusive. I know this is hard for people, especially when children are in foster care. They still love their parents, and no matter what that person did, children have the capacity for unconditional love. And they see with their hearts, not with their minds or, not with their memories. They see with their hearts. And so when they're looking at that person, they're not looking at them as somebody bad, but somebody who they love. And so honor their love. Talk with them about it. Give them the opportunity to express their fears, their issues around trust and loyalty if there's a new person in their life. Children typically have physical symptoms. Those physical symptoms affect their development, so they may have regressive symptoms. So they may, children who've been potty trained may go back to bedwetting. Children who were speaking very well may go back to baby talk. Their development can be delayed or regress as a result of trauma or loss. And it often shows up in physical symptoms: loss of bowel control, bladder control, stomach aches, not wanting to sleep alone, headaches, heartaches, arm aches. I've heard them all. So take their physical symptoms seriously. Don't diminish them by thinking they're not important. I always say check it out, though. Make sure you have them see a doctor and and make sure it's not something serious. But if it isn't something serious, then please, please respect that physical symptom as a symbolic representation of the grief and trauma in their bodies. And that's how it's coming through. It's coming through their bodies. Relationship changes. Children go through relationship changes. When a parent dies, for example, their relationship to the surviving parent will change. And the surviving parent's relationship to the child will change because you're dealing with issues that you didn't have to deal with when that other parent was there. Mothers who've lost husbands or fathers, they have to be both parents now. You know, how they were, they used to work together in parenting. Good guy, bad guy, good parent, bad parent, mean parent, nice parent. I mean, I'm sure you all have it all. But in the meantime, it's important to recognize that this is typical for children. And, oh, can you see me now? Okay. Sorry, I had to go check on the feed here and, oh, now you can see me. Sorry. I went to the feed and everything's okay. So, okay, so relationship changes. Let's move on. Let's talk about how you can talk with your children about COVID-19. And it's similar to talking with children about grief. It's the very same kind of issues. Parents and caregivers should use concrete, simple, and developmentally appropriate language to explain concepts. I think we've had so much of it in the news that it's probably easy enough to use concrete examples, but we really want to be aware of your child's development and how they can access information and understand information. And so keep it simple, basically. Keep it simple. And recognize that children will often repeat their questions over and over and over again. And so it's not that they are trying to be irritating or they weren't listening or some of the things that we typically think when we hear questions over and over again, but it's that they are trying to understand, and their capacity to understand is limited by their development. And so they might get part of what you said, but the rest of it they might be thinking and then not get it, and they might come back and ask that question again. So just keep answering over and over and over again, and as they grow and develop over time, those questions may come back and be in a little bit different form. But don't say, oh, I just answered that question. Oh, I thought we talked about this. That's changing the subject. Just answer the question. And hopefully they will ask questions. And if they don't ask questions, you need to say, do you have any questions about what's going on? So follow your child's lead. Allow them to ask questions and see where the conversation goes. So when talking to teens, you might say, are your friends talking about coronavirus? What are they saying? For younger children, you might say, have you heard grown-ups talking about a new sickness that's been going around? What have you heard? Check it out. Find out from them what their understanding is. And so that's a great question. Just find out what's their thinking. Sometimes you don't know what children or teens are thinking. And you just have to ask and find out from them what other people are saying, because they themselves might not know in their own mind what they're thinking, but they will have heard other people talk, and they can usually answer questions about what other people have said. So that's a good starting point. Talk openly and honestly to children about what's happening. Give them the facts. Be honest. Mention the symptoms of the virus are similar to a flu, cough, fever, shortness of breath. Most people, and let them know, most people who get the virus have mild symptoms, because they might be fearing that if they get it, they'll die. If you get it, you'll die. This is something we're all afraid of. So help them understand that most people get better and have mild symptoms. Explain that the virus isn't very common in children, although that may not be true very long. We don't know yet, but it doesn't matter. We don't want our children to get it. So let them know if someone feels very ill, they can go to the hospital. Empower your children by letting them know they can help by practicing good hand washing, not touching their face, and sneezing into their elbow. Now this is a tricky one. I don't know about you, but I'm having trouble with not touching my face and sneezing into my elbow. I really got to practice on that, and I have to be aware, I have to think about it, I have to do it consciously. I have to remind myself, I have to remind others. I mean, it's just something we have to do different than we've ever done. Let your children know this time of quarantine and social distancing will pass. It is temporary. It feels like it's forever, but it is temporary. We will get through this. We've gotten through pandemics in the past. We'll get through this one, but we've got to do what we can do to make this a pandemic we can get through and survive. So explain to children that social distancing is as we need to stay at least 6 feet away from people in public and wear masks so that we protect ourselves and others. You got to explain these things to them. Don't say, put your mask on, put your mask. No, we do this to protect others and to protect ourselves. So they need that information repeated just like we need it. Tell them that a pandemic can be explained as people all over the world are sick with this virus. That's what it means. That's what a pandemic means. That people all over the world are sick with it. And it's not just, Hawaii, it's not just some other state, but it's all over the world. And that's what makes it a pandemic. So children need your support. It doesn't have to be difficult to support children. Here are some activities that will go a long way to bringing normalcy and consistency to their day. And if you remember in group work, and we talked about safety and the importance of safety and feeling safe, consistency is one way you can create safety for a child. Just doing the same things. I feel like doing your Groundhog Day. We're in Groundhog Days. I feel like my days turn into Groundhog Days because it's like, wait, what day is it? Oh, it's the same day as yesterday. But not. Okay, so bring normalcy and consistency into their day. Provide structure and a daily routine. So you guys can work together to establish a daily plan that includes meal times, bedtime, work time, playtime, creative time, and exercise. Set small goals every day. Do your best to attend to your child and your own body and brain and emotions. So I have heard from some parents who are doing a really good job with this, and I've heard from some parents who really hate structure. They hate routine. And so those parents are going to have to work a little bit harder, I think, to provide that because their children need it. We may not like it, but our children need it. It's a basic need for safety, and that routine and consistency provides that sense of safety. Share your feelings while also providing reassurance. You have probably similar feelings to your child. Let your child know that caregivers are there to keep them safe. You're going to keep them safe. Helpful statements include there are lots of amazing grown-ups, such as doctors and nurses, working hard to keep us healthy, and we'll get through this together. Models good self-care. That's something we probably all need a little more practice at, and maybe all this time inside is helping us to practice self-care. Take breaks, get plenty of sleep, exercise, eat well, and stay connected to your friends and family members via phone, in a safe way. Encourage expression. Let your children express themselves through art, writing, talking things out, and physical activity. Collage is something we use a lot at Kids Hurt Too with training our volunteers. It's more of a guided activity or an adult or teen activity, but it's something that you can do with your children to help them express their feels, just cutting their feelings, their fears, just cutting pictures out, that represent their fears and cutting pictures out that represents what makes them feel safe, and just working together to create that collage. It will really help you understand where your children are coming from, and it will help your children understand their own needs and issues. use touch. Take advantage of extra time during the quarantine for cuddles, hugs, and play. Physical closeness and care go a long way in helping children feel safe and loved. And you are the main person in their life who can provide that. Thank you for doing that for your children. Unconditional love is, of course, what we promote at Kids Hurt Too. Unconditional love means don't interpret or place value on what they say, on their behavior, on any play that they're doing or any art that they might create. We don't want to be interpreting what it means. We just want to be listening. We just want to be accepting what they choose to share with us. Don't place value on it. Oh, what a pretty picture. That's placing value. That you did a good job. That's placing value. And that is something that we do typically, without thinking. But if you want to provide unconditional love, you need to think about how you communicate love. Don't overreact or react. React. What is a react? Reaction is like a knee jerk. You hear something and it's like, oh, this it comes with emotions. Reaction is about you and your stuff, and it does not help you be a support person. Respond. Hear what they're saying, see what they're doing, and respond. And remember, safety is primary. So you want to respond in a safe way. You want to say, oh, so you're saying this, or oh, you're doing that. Say what you see, say what you hear, and match their energy. Response is what you want to give them, a response, not a reaction. And be aware that you are a mirror for your children. They are watching everything you say, everything you do, and they're taking from you who they should be or who they are. And as a mirror, you have to recognize that this is a huge responsibility that you place, that you have in their life. You, their teachers, their friends, all of these people in their lives are mirroring back to them who they are. And what you want your children to be able to do is grow in their own individual, unique experience. In order to do that, you've got to provide that clear mirror, that unconditionally loving mirror. You've got to be willing to be with them without judging, without interpreting, without placing value, and just be present and interactively participating in their experience. Thank you for listening to my presentation today. I know it's a lot of information again, and you probably have some very specific questions that I may or may not have been able to answer. And so I'll check and see if there are any questions. Okay, so it looks like we don't have questions at this time. So we're just going to move forward and end our program today. Please feel free to call Kids Hurt Too at 1-808-LILLOVE, LILLOVE, or 545-5683 if you have questions about your children's communication and need support in communicating with them. We'll do everything we can to assist you in being there for your children and doing the best you can. I know you want to. I know you are. And we want to support that. So thank you all. And remember, be safe. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Aloha.